It turns out that the UK variant has been in the country since December 10. But the health department says it was too early to run the necessary tests back then since Britain reported to the WHO only on December 14. The Trade Department eyes to lower Metro Manila's quarantine classification to MGCQ. But under what condition? NTF LCAC's General Antonio Parlade tags 18 schools with alleged NPA recruitment. Some of the country's top universities are on his list. And the U.S. Senate assures Americans that the impeachment trial against former President Donald Trump will push through. The House of Representatives is set to deliver the article of impeachment on Monday. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your day this Sunday, January 24. I'm Riza Diaz. 2 minors were among the 16 UK variant cases detected in the country. 12 new cases of the more transmissible variant of COVID-19 were reported in Bontoc Mountain Province, of which 2 minors were aged 5 and 10. Health Secretary Francisco Duque notes that the detection of the B117 strain was due to the government's strengthened biosurveillance activities. Despite the 16 UK variant cases, health officials are saying that it is still premature to say that there is an ongoing community transmission of the variant. Malacanang defends the IATF decision to ease age restrictions for children 10 years old and above. Palace spokesperson Harry Roque said children have already stayed inside their homes for 10 months and allowing them to go outside is good for their physical, social, and mental health. This after many questioned the easing of age restrictions due to the emergence of the UK variant of the coronavirus. Roque added that the IATF carefully weigh in all factors before they release the decision. The more infectious COVID-19 variant has been in the Philippines as early as December 10, but the health department says it was too early to tell if it was indeed that new variant. The DOH Epidemiology Bureau says the samples from one of the 16 UK variant cases were collected on December 10, but it was only 4 days after when the United Kingdom reported the mutation to the World Health Organization. Despite the 1-month lag, experts from the DOH Technical Advisory Group say that the country was still early to identify the new variant.
Pfizer, Moderna, and Oxford are all testing COVID-19 vaccine shots in children. The U.S. has given more than 14 million shots, mainly to healthcare workers and the elderly. And now experts are saying that immunizing children will be crucial in defeating the pandemic. Here to discuss is Bloomberg Intelligence's Director of Research in Europe and Senior Pharma Analyst, Sam Fazeli, live in Bordeaux, France. Hey, Sam, thanks for joining us this morning. Let's talk about these trials that are happening in the youngest people. Why are they so important, and how do you test ethically drugs in people who are under 18?
Hi, yes, and a pleasure to be with you. You obviously have to do these trials at some point because people under the age of 18 are not immune to the virus, and they can be carriers of the virus and often asymptomatic and potentially transmit the virus to others. And it's also a misnomer to believe that nobody under the age of 18 can suffer seriously from COVID-19. So it's important to do that. And just like many other drug development processes, you start with the adults and then slowly work your way back and test it as you go along. Immunity of a 16-year-old, 18-year-old is likely to be similar to that of an adult. The younger you go, of course, things change.
But are there examples of vaccines that aren't given to young children because of potential adverse side effects that are totally fine in older adults?
I have to say I don't know of any offhand, but then I haven't specifically looked for it. There are vaccines that are only given to adults, but that's because they are adult indications, such as shingles. Excuse me. So, but aside from that, there are many vaccines that we give to people, to infants to start with. And as they grow older, Gardasil being one that only yesterday I administered to my own daughter.
Right, right. And that's a relatively new vaccine, just in the last few years that started being given to adolescents. I want to talk about the deaths in Norway, Sam, because this is something that got a lot of attention over the weekend. 33 deaths were reported in mid-January among some 42,000 people who were given the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine in Norway. That sounds scary, but give us some context here, because it turns out that according to Norwegian health officials, there's no link between the deaths and the vaccine.
Right. So, frankly, if I was the Norwegian health officials, I would have waited maybe a few days before I spoke about these issues. We know, for example, that the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines are being used in care homes in the US. And a rough estimate would be that about 1.3 to 1.5 million people in care homes, which would include, of course, a lot of people over the age of 70, 80, have been vaccinated with it. And according to the CDC data that we've seen up to last Friday, only 44 deaths have been reported. That's a very different number to what Norway has said. So I think officials everywhere, including California that's just coming out, need to be careful before they start sending out these messages, because people latch onto them.
You recently published information, Sam, on the coronavirus variants and how the vaccines work against them, or what I should say is how we know at this point how they work against them. Bring us up to speed, because I'm wondering about the timing of clinical trials that actually show the efficacy when it comes to strains.
Sure. So two things happened basically overnight, last night. One is that Professor Ravi Gupta's lab in Cambridge, UK, has looked at vaccines being sera from vaccinated people in the UK, so mostly, I think exclusively, Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. After one dose, 3 weeks later, his lab looked at the ability of their sera to neutralize the UK variant. And it seems that people under the age of 80, they had 8 individuals in that group, showed very little difference in the ability of the vaccine to neutralize them. People over the age of 80, they had some issues with something like 50% falling meaningfully. So there is a risk there that has to be looked at. Perhaps a second dose helps. In South Africa, there's a different discussion going on. The vaccine hasn't been tested yet, but there was information last night that people, if you take serum from people who've been infected with a coronavirus over the past 9 months, 50% of those seem to be unable to neutralize the South African variant. That's worrying, but I'm still hopeful that vaccines will retain a good level of efficacy for that variant too, but it needs to be proven.
Well, you're certainly not the only one who's hopeful. Bloomberg Intelligence's Sam Fazeli. Sam, thank you as always for your time. It's great to see you this morning.
Meanwhile, the Trade Department is looking at the possibility of changing quarantine restrictions in Metro Manila to a more relaxed MGCQ. That's as long as the infection rate goes down and if most IATF members agree to the proposal. Trade Secretary Mon Lopez says continuing with the gradual reopening of the economy with strict compliance to health protocols is the right approach. This is after the age restrictions were eased as an effort to boost the country's economy. The COVAX facility eyes to start delivering COVID-19 vaccines to poor countries in February. COVAX announced that it will purchase up to 40 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines, which will be rolled out after the successful negotiation and execution of supply agreements. They are also expecting 150 million doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine, which still has a pending WHO emergency use listing. The WHO said that AstraZeneca's shots will be available for distribution by COVAX in the first quarter of this year.
Together, these announcements mean COVAX could begin delivering doses in February, provided we can finalize a supply agreement for the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine and emergency use listing for the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. COVAX is on track to deliver 2 billion doses by the end of this year.
According to Chief Executive Officer of Gavi, which leads the COVAX procurement and delivery, the global initiative could procure 2.3 billion doses of vaccines this year. This means that COVAX could provide almost 1.8 billion doses for the 92 lower-income countries.
That's enough to protect about 27% of the population in those low and lower middle income countries, which is in excess of the initial targets we laid out to protect those at highest risk. And we have the prospect of more doses to come through both other deals and the dose sharing principles that we announced in December.
NTF-ELCAC spokesperson Antonio Parlade tagged 18 schools in Metro Manila where NPA recruitment is allegedly rampant. Aside from UP, AFP named PUP, Ateneo, DLSU, and PLM among others. Parlade urges parents of students enrolled in these schools to be vigilant and monitor their children's activities to prevent them from being recruited by communist groups. The general made this claim just a few days after the government unilaterally terminated the UP-DND accord. The impeachment trial against Donald Trump will still push through. This is in connection with the mob of Trump loyalists who stormed the U.S. Capitol after Joe Biden won the presidency. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer says the trial will be full and fair as senators decide whether Trump indeed incited the insurrection against the United States.
The Senate will also conduct a second impeachment trial for Donald Trump. I've been speaking to the Republican leader about the timing and duration of the trial, but make no mistake, a trial will be held in the United States Senate, and there will be a vote on whether to convict the president.
And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 9 in the morning as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.